Hello everybody and welcome back to the Bayonetta 2 walkthrough. So we've just completed a Muspelheim and it is time for us to get out of this pool of water. Now, having just gotten out, there is actually an optional verse if we just leap right back in. And after just floating down for a little bit, we will come into a fight against a couple of fidelities. And yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a dick move, just sticking it in the place that you've literally just come from, like immediately after the cutscene of you exiting that location, but it happens. Could have been a hell of a lot worse, I have to say. Now, something that I'll point out is that this is the end of Chapter 5, and we will be going into what is probably the single shortest chapter in the entire game, which is Chapter 6. And at that point I will basically get to go into what is essentially my biggest frustration with Bayonetta 2. And it is a big one. It really is. I love the game, don't get me wrong, but yeah. Anywho, hidden over here, it's very easy to get, is the second part of our Angelic Hymns Gold LP, which allows us to get another weapon, which is Chernabog. Now, Chernabog you will probably recognise mostly from Disney's Fantasia as the big black demon who sits atop Bald Mountain, and there's that just amazing sequence, and also he's a boss in Kingdom Hearts. So basically he's a Slavic deity, Slavic being basically what the Slavs, who are kind of Indo-European people, and it basically means black god.
Not really, huh? But you're right.
And yeah, it's basically dark and accursed and he's evil, and he appears here as a wonderful scythe, or multi-scythe thing. It's really cool.
Plenty of experience with nothing coming to mind.
What?
I spent 500 years not knowing who I was. I only found out the truth recently.
You too? Listen, I don't remember a thing. Nothing. I don't even know why I'm so damn sure I need to go to that mountain. But I know I have to. It's all I know. Does that make any sense?
Come now, little one. Can't let the girls know you've got a heart.
It's not like that.
If that's all you know, that's all the sense you need. Just believe. That's what I did.
Bayonetta.
And after that really long conversation, we can finally run again. It's a really frustrating moment. I think it's actually the last time that we are going to end up with one of those slow walkie-talkie moments. Thank God. But it is very noticeable because it really breaks the pace. It's a wonderful speech, and I think sort of it shows how much Bayonetta has grown as a character since the original game. Because in the first game, she was very kind of blunt, didn't really give a damn about anybody. And then she found out who she was, and her past, and that basically made her more human. And so, whereas in the first game she basically treated Cereza like absolute crap, for a lot of the game, she's actually kind of got some care for Loki. Like, she's not the heartless monster that she was before. And I think it's just really nice and touching. And also she's not quite as abrasive as she used to be. Which I think certainly works in her favour. Now I have to say, this is a really, really easy Muspelheim. For the most part, I'd say that all of the Muspelheims in Bayonetta 2 are easier than they are in the original Bayonetta. Like, those things in the original game are so difficult. Whereas, there are only maybe 2 or 3 towards the end of Bayonetta 2 that I actually struggled with, which is a shame, but then again I guess it makes them a hell of a lot easier to replay, which is the main godsend. Also, I have to say, I'm using the Rakshasa Blaze a lot more than I remember doing. It's probably because I knew that I'd be spending so much time focusing upon Undine after a certain point that no other weapons were really going to get much of a chance to shine. And so, it's time to pick up another notebook. Yay! Advanced technology. Sometimes we discover things from the past we find hard to believe. I have seen artifacts displaying a level of civilization that could not have existed in the time that they are claimed to have been created. Ruins are found built with technology far too advanced for that of their era. Noatun is said to be one such place where this phenomenon occurs. Unsure of what I would find, I decided to investigate the Cathedral of Cascades. The cathedral stands in the middle of a lake, requiring me to take a boat to reach it. Its outer walls were in worse condition than I had expected, as debris blocked the entrance. It took a little improvisation to find a way inside. Surprisingly, the cathedral was in much better condition indoors, and I reached the centre of the building in no time. It seemed to be the base of the tower in Noatun that almost scrapes the surface of the sky, created to be symbolic of the sacred mountain Fimbulvenda. They say there used to be a path from the top of the tower that connected to the peak of the mountain. There was this strange sphere-like object sitting on the ground too. Could it have been the ancient elevator I heard the townspeople talking about? Curiously, there were no wires or anything attached to it. How's it supposed to take people up to the top? I didn't see stairs either, so I assumed it was an elevator. But maybe I was wrong. Some of the things people come up with, seriously. Whatever that was, I want to figure it out eventually. I snapped a photo, so I'll show it to someone who might know a thing or two about it, of course. Only after I finish the rest of my investigation here. And so with that, it's time to actually find out what the hell this weird, spherical thing does.
I remember this.
Huh?
You again?
Oh, hey, mouthy brat kid.
So, I see you're acquainted.
How did you get here?
I'm the great Luka. I didn't go through all these ridiculous ordeals to just randomly show up in opportune places, you know.
See? Risking everything for nothing. Told you I knew someone just like that. So, what are you after this time?
Oh, loads of stuff. For instance, I found this really great place for seafood. They do an amazing sardine meuniere. But more importantly, I'm investigating an old Noatun story, known as the Legend of Aesir.
The Legend of Aesir?
fairy tale is?
Actually, this might have something to do with you, Bayonetta.
You don't say.
The legend
And so now we get The Legend of Aesir, which is very much like what Luka did in the first game, where he did a nice long explanation of the history of the world with the witches and the sages.
light, darkness,
And
chaos. Obviously, our world
yeah,
is
it's
one
basically
chaos.
nearly identical to the one that he said at the start of the game, so it's kind of just like, why do you need to repeat it?
Chaos became known as Aesir.
I mean, it's cool and all, and I really do like kind of the artwork that's going on here.
His holy mountain,
It's just that it's
where we only see reality
not
and make it match our rules.
particularly interesting,
Aesir saw through reality, and those visions became
nor is it, but it's sort of like, it just
these observations
really
became
just
Aesir's
drags.
Aesir's eyes.
Like, any excitement you had, like, coming up to this, is just kind of dashed.
Naivete and lack of free will.
And it's just like,
So the power he wielded
Yeah.
was split into two
This is-
equal halves,
this is the thing.
devoted each to humanity's instincts. The right eye of light and the left eye of darkness. By dividing the power of the eye
Now, whilst Luka continues talking about Aesir, I'm actually going to go and get into the origins of the word Aesir.
with control of the eyes of the world,
Because Aesir
the eyes that determine
is basically Old Norse for
they awoke to their own identity.
gods, basically.
Man is but a
So, the Aesir are the principal pantheon
but now
of the Norse gods,
thinking reads,
including Odin, Frigg, Thor, Balder, and Tyr.
grand prosperity.
And then there's a second pantheon composed, which is the Vanir.
And granted the power
And basically there's a war between the Aesir and the Vanir. And basically,
That's right. The eyes of the world, controlled by a lumen sage,
it
Umbra
is the
witch.
plural of as or os, which is god, in kind of other Germanic languages.
Influence of the right eye,
The Old English is
the one
basically
controlled by the
os,
sages. Left this
and
world
plural is isa.
of the final sage.
And you end up with, like, Asura in Sanskrit. So that's kind of where all that
Disasters that are
ace,
occurring right
ass
now have
stuff
something to do with the
comes
loss of
from.
the right eye.
And there are
And what
female
will happen to our planet?
members of it, but they're the
Those are the truths I have.
Asinja,
And the truth will
or the
always
Asinya, or something along those
If the truth
lines.
is here, then so am I. And I
And
think
there's that, I really do like how much Norse they do use, because Norse mythology is great.
I've done my homework. Would you expect anything less from the marvelous, magnificent, magnanimous Luka?
See you later, dude.
Bayonetta, get on!
Not quite sure how he was going to survive that mind, but either way, verse 9 begins and we are basically on a straight run up until the end of the chapter, so that's great. Now, this isn't the first time that Bayonetta has been riding up a spherical elevator and having to fight angels. I'm pretty sure that in, I think, it was chapter 10 or 11, you had an instance of this, and it may also have appeared in chapter 15. My memory of the very small elements of gameplay of the original Bayonetta is quite small, considering I haven't played it in like 2-3 years-ish now, which is quite frankly insane. Like, something that I was expecting to happen when I first got Bayonetta 2 was that I was expecting to not be anywhere near as good as I used to be. Quick point, that bewitchment is for killing 20 angels with Umbra and Climax, I think? Something along those lines. But, yeah, like, I thought I was going to be absolutely useless. But thankfully, no, my skills relatively transferred, which I was not expecting in the slightest. The only main frustration is that the button layout is different on the Wii U gamepad. So, essentially, if my memory is correct, I believe it is, on the Xbox 360 controller, the Xbox and PS3 games, the main attack, like the foot was B, the punch was Y, shooting was with the gun was X, and A was jump. Whereas here, Y is just shoot, X and A are your punch and your kick, and your B is your jump. So it felt really odd, and I constantly accidentally pressed the Y button when I shouldn't do. Also, this is actually the first time that a male character is playable in the Bayonetta games. It's also the only point at which you're going to be controlling a male character within the story mode, because they haven't made it possible to play anything other than female. It's largely because of the way that alternate characters have always worked in Platinum games, but they like to use the same skeleton, if possible, so that it's much easier to program. So, like, I think in Beautiful Joe, basically, you had Joe, and I think Sylvia and Dante and stuff worked on the same physical skeleton. Same with Dante and Virgil. Although, obviously, Hideki Kamiya has nothing to do with any of the other Devil May Cry games. But basically, sort of, it makes things easier to animate, and it saves a lot of space to have the same physical skeleton to work with. Now, this is an introduction to the Ice Urbane. So basically you have a fire type and an ice type. And they are weak to kind of the opposite element. It's something that Bayonetta 2 introduced, is that there are certain elemental effects. So, fire is weak to ice is weak to fire, you can poison enemies, and that sort of stuff is effective. I personally haven't quite felt it enough, but oh well. Now, if you want to get the Bewitchment for freezing 40 types of enemies, don't do it on this type of Urbane, because it won't work because it's an ice type. And you have to freeze 40 non-ice type elemental, well, 40 ice type, non-ice type enemies, which is a very easy thing to do if you know what you're doing and you know which enemies you killed with it and frozen. But that's something I will be going into further later on when I actually start successfully freezing enemies, because that's not going to happen for a very long time. But with that, and that was a very, very poor show on my part, Chapter 5 is complete.
Right. Let's go.
Let's.
And so, with what is most definitely another platinum under the belt, it's time to head into Chapter 6, aka the shortest chapter in the entire game. It's ridiculous, but You'll see what I mean then. Oh my gosh. Let's go!